So before we get started, my apologies. I have a cold. I took a train last weekend to see my parents, and like any public transport, it's a lovely hive of bacteria and viruses. But it's fine. My apologies if I'm sounding a bit bunged up, a bit sniffly. Hopefully, I'll edit out all of the coughing. That'll be fun. Right. Follow up.
Follow up.
Last time we talked about your workspace and the optimizations you've made, Robin, and we had a few questions about what my workspace is, and I realized I didn't mention it. I just kind of negged your workspace.
The implication being that yours is 1,000 times better, but without putting, your money where your mouth is. Yeah.
At least, surely at least 1,000 times better.
At least
So
1,000.
well, I've been through a lot of ergonomic tweaks and optimizations over the course of my life, which I blame on two things. One, programmers get paid too much, so we have to waste them on stupid things like this. And the second thing is that I've always been a bit afraid of RSI. So I wanted to like solve that before it happened. But I think mostly it's sort of quite trendy stuff. Of course, the joke was on me. A few years ago, I did get RSI in a catastrophic way. So my desk setup, I don't have the world's most perfect keyboard, the Apple keyboard. I'm so sorry. I've got a split.
Well, something for the future.
I can save up for it, perhaps.
Yeah.
I've got a split ergonomic keyboard. I'm a big fan of split keyboards because you take the left side of the keyboard and the right hand side and you move them apart, and you're no longer kind of hunched over this one plank of keys. And the one I've got at the moment is by a company called Mo Ergo. It's called the Go 60, which is Bluetooth and has built-in touchpads, which is quite a novelty. For years before this, I only got this perhaps in January, for just a month ago. For years, I loved ZSA keyboards. I've had every one they've ever made. The Voyager, I think, is the perfect keyboard. These are all very expensive. I don't necessarily recommend them for everyone, but they are quite fun. In between those two halves of the keyboard, I've got a little music keyboard, a little music piano, 2-octave half-size key piano, because I spend a lot of my time composing, a lot of my time playing music. And above that, I've got a large 4K screen, LG. Not sure what the size is, but like the larger the better, as far as I'm concerned. And below it, I've got the Raspberry Pi display as a secondary monitor. And this is all sitting on a standing desk because before I did powerlifting, standing was the only way that stopped my back constantly getting injured due to slouching and posture stuff.
Hey, can I ask?
Please.
Do you feel like I know I said that I wasn't interested in powerlifting, but I am.
Great.
To some extent.
Yeah.
I am to this degree. Would you suggest, therefore, that powerlifting is a much more significant improvement than standing desks? And does that mean that you wouldn't you're less you feel the need for a standing desk less keenly if you've got your exercise routine down? Do you know what I mean?
I do. And the answer is absolutely yes. In January, a month ago, I put out my latest video, which is powerlifting for programmers, or hack your brain with powerlifting. And one of the insights that I said that I'd received in that video is that strength is better than ergonomics. Like, it's better not to require the compromises and affordances. It is better to just be strong and not need them.
Because I feel like, you say you've got to be hunched over this central thing. I feel like I've always, I suppose in a way, taken a little bit of pride in the fact that I can sit in a cafe, I can sit on the sofa in someone's house, I can, I just carry my laptop around. I'm not expecting my laptop to be any particularly special laptop. It's just the one that I have available. I can just use the keyboard that I'm given, and
Yeah.
to some extent, the the fact that I'm, rather than buying the things that will adjust my environment to what I feel I need, I'm I'm saying no, I'm not going to let myself do that. I'm going to train myself to continually adjust to whatever it is that my tech requires me to do, so I can just do my work in any scenario, in any context. Um, Feels a little bit similar to what you're saying about strength.
You're absolutely right. It is much better to be able to sit on a train for 4 hours with a laptop and type comfortably and use the machine in whatever way you like, which is a novel thing for me. I didn't used to be able to do that. Um, it is much better to do that than what happened to me about a year or two ago, where I could no longer type on a laptop because my hands were just so painful and I had to rest them for long periods of time. Strength is much better than that, but you're a lot more active than I. You've got a young family, so you're like been wrangling kids for years, and I feel like you are more active. Do you do any sports, Robin, that I don't know about?
Well, I did tennis for a while.
Right.
I'm not the most sporty person in the world at all.
Hmm.
I am, but instead I'm just fidgety. Like I think a lot of your problems come from sitting still in one aspect and doing a repetitive
Yeah.
action like typing or whatever. And I think I've just like, part of my problem in life is that I'm not able to do that,
Yes.
you know? So I move around a lot. Um, and now I do a lot of running. Um, yeah, now I do a lot of running, and I'd love to play more tennis, and I'd love to find a sport that I can get into. But I haven't been super sporty. I'm probably more fit now than I've been at any point in my like 20s or 30s, I feel like.
Right. I think probably that active, the fact that you're just fidgety and active and like on the move all the time, that's got to help a lot because what really triggered my RSI, like that opened the floodgates, was when I became self-employed and started typing for 16 hours a day. Like I didn't need to go anywhere, I didn't need to do anything, and I could just do whatever I wanted. But of course, that monkey's paw. Be careful what you wish for. It's like, oh, great, you can sit at a desk for 16 hours a day, just like you've always wanted. Isn't that great? Please enjoy, says, fate or whatever, or the genie. Uh, and of course, that caused me a lot of problems. The book that uh, that one of the two books that I drew as my primary source for the powerlifting video is called Starting Strength: Basic Barbell Training by Mark Rippetoe. Although the guy is extremely controversial, the book is an amazing textbook. You just have to like do the death of the author thing and separate things out. In it, he says three things, and I highlighted them down. I was just read them from my highlights. Go
I
on.
don't know if you can mention that he's controversial without explaining why. I'm too curious.
Oh, he's just a bit of he sounds like a very mean person. Like he was a little bit misogynistic in the book, and on his podcast, he's far worse.
Right. So, I mean, I think that's important to say, because you're basically saying, like, obviously
True.
there are scientists who have fabricated studies, and if they wrote books and then you were trying to say that book is good even though they fabricated that study, I think everyone would be quite right to say, well, hold on a minute, is that not then based on like a fundamental dishonesty in their scientific method, and therefore I shouldn't listen to a single thing they say?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Whereas if instead it's a character flaw, and that has very little to do with the theory of their life's work, right? Then it's easier to then believe that their life's work has value, despite the fact that they're a dick.
Got it. Yes, that's a very good thing. I must make sure I make it clear that is the side. Like character flaw is a very good expression that I'm going to use. It's
Yeah.
like the actual, like he worked with doctors and professionals, and like he's a trainer, a professional trainer who has trained Olympians. Like the actual data is great. Like that's why everyone loves the book. The second book that I like drew primary sources from is Casey Johnston's book of last year or the year before, A Physical Education, where Casey Johnston wrote for Vice, I think. She's a writer, a reporter. And like 10 years ago, she started powerlifting, and then like it changed her life. And the book is her memoirs. In that book, she cautiously recommend starting strength. And reading between the lines, it's the same problem. It's like, this book is so good, just don't necessarily listen to the podcast of its author.
Yeah. I think there's quite a lot of people
yeah.
where the sort of core of their academic discipline interest, like they say something really, really transformative and really valuable, and then they also want to have opinions a bit outside of that. And then you have to just be very clear that you're not going to listen to any of their opinions, like as soon as they stray from their core domain. Do you know what I mean?
I do, but like, tread very carefully, Robin. We are literally right now on a podcast, and we wouldn't be here without the success of my YouTube channel, which is basically programming and other stuff. But then I sort of got out of my pram and we're now talking about politics and all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely.
So I hope I don't go down that road.
I mean, I think, but whether that's true of you, I mean, I'm not saying that's true of everybody. I think it's not. I think there are people who have said a great thing in one domain, they've migrated it into another, you know, they've found related things and that was great too. And then they've done other things that are absolutely great, etc. And there are other people who have tried to comment in another area and it's like, just shut up. You don't know. It's like, and so it's for society and posterity to decide which one you are or which one I am.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And the less we talk about Jordan Peterson.
Right. I mean, yes, I feel like he was the shadow in the room, wasn't he?
Perfect. Yes, absolutely. So in starting strength, the author says 3 things. 1, physical strength is the most important thing in life. I mean, I think if you were a weightlifting trainer, you might say that. 2, the reality of millions of years of adaptation to a ruggedly physical existence will not just go away because desks were invented. And 3, exercise is not a thing we do to fix a problem, it is a thing we must do anyway, a thing without which there will always be problems. And there's like a million like good quotes like this in the book, and Casey Johnston's book has got loads and loads of inspirational stuff in as well. And I just realized that, as you said, wouldn't it be better just to not have these to require these ergonomic crutches? And unlike when there's actually like a physical injury or disability that can't go away and has to be managed, in my case, what luck, the exercise completely solved it for me. Both my back posture problems and my hands and arm RSI problems. It's been nothing short of a miracle.
Does that mean that you were spending quite a lot of money on various different equipment to try and solve something which you now feel is solved much more cheaply in a way that makes you more flexible to using different setups through powerlifting, basically?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, there is no gym subscription that is more expensive than a physiotherapist or an ergonomic keyboard. Like, it was like shockingly cheap how like a gym always seems like something that's very expensive, but I was doing weekly physiotherapy in 2022, 2023, which wasn't working, but still cost £100 per session. It was terrible. It was a nightmare. I mean, maybe it stopped me getting worse and was a miracle, but it wasn't making me any better.
Well, but you see, you said this to me before, this thing about the gym subscription, and I really react against that because I do think gyms are a massive ripoff. I think that they charge you a large amount of money based on the theory that most of those people are not going to go to the gym anywhere near as much as they think they will.
Yeah.
And so I would prefer to find ways to leave. I mean, I think there's a whole load of exercise. This is the thing about powerlifting for me. I mean, I don't know much about it, but it seems like you need a high enough ceiling that you can lift the weights up above your head with straight arms, and you need a strong enough floor that you can put these weights down, and you need to have potentially like a cage or something, right? Like, so there's some equipment there that's needed, and particularly there's a sort of building that's needed, which makes it a bit tough. But I would generally, I mean, this is what I've done. Like, I used to be a member of David Lloyd. As soon as it was clear that life was going to get a bit more expensive, I cancelled the subscription to David Lloyd, which is very expensive. Obviously, I could get a cheaper
Sure.
gym, but I don't really see the point. I go running. I can go running in nature, and I'm at least as fit as I was when I had the gym subscription. And so it would be nice if there were, lots of, and there's things like park run, right? I mean, park run's great. Um,
Hmm.
and I think there might be other different sorts of exercise that you can do more kind of socially or more at home. Like I suppose, in a way, press ups are almost like a sort, like a bit similar to a sort of weightlifting, right? Like I don't know. I just feel like it would be
Yes.
nice if there were ways that worked perfectly fine that didn't require one to pay for a subscription to a building, to be allowed to enter a building where they've bought some equipment. But broadly speaking, like, you know,
Yes, I was of this I was of this opinion in 2020 when I bought my own powerlifting equipment. Like it was my lockdown project. Like I desperately put the order in as we were getting told to work from home. Like all the stars aligned. And powerlifting equipment is too big for a normal residential home. The bar is 7 foot and weighs 20 kilos. It's it's a very weird, unwieldy thing. I could almost not get it up my stairs. I had to like get it around the corner. Um,
yeah.
and I realized when I tried powerlifting again last year, because I gave it up after a couple of years working from home because I kept injuring myself. Spoiler, it's because I didn't do any research or get a personal trainer. And I hadn't read Starting Strength, which tells you the exact technique. And this time round, going to a gym is for powerlifting. I think it's one of the few activities that makes sense. Like a lot of other activities, you can kind of do better outside a gym. I'm with you on park run. Like I love a park run. Lucy and I, my wife, we've got a local park run every Saturday, just a 5K at our local park, and it's lovely.
I think they all are. I think every park run is basically 9 a.m. on a Saturday,
Oh,
I
nice.
think.
Yeah, yeah, yes, of course they are. Yeah, that's terrific. And like, which would I rather do? Run around a beautiful park in nature, or run on a treadmill? Like it just seems no contest. And
Yeah.
a lot of the weight machines in the gym seem similar to that as well. Like I can just get some dumbbells or maybe some dip bars, maybe like the equipment doesn't seem too bad. Whereas with powerlifting, I now realize,
Yeah.
as you said, the floor must be reinforced and you must be comfortable with eventually failing a lift and smashing over 100 kilos onto the floor. I have nowhere in my house I would be comfortable doing that, and I don't have an outside space that is suitable either.
No, I can see this. I can see that the fundamentally the thing that is actually expensive and actually makes the gym a special space that it's a privilege to have access to, therefore, or it's at least justifies the entrance fee,
Yeah.
is basically the powerlifting part. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think in either Casey's book or in a physical education or starting strength, or perhaps both, they say that specialist powerlifting gyms tend to be really cheap because they like rent a garage, buy 3 sets of barbell weights and cages, and then the nothing ever breaks. Like you can't break a 7 foot piece of steel that has been designed to hold hundreds of kilos. Like it just never
Yeah.
breaks. Whereas a traditional high street gym has lots of machines with moving parts that are on long maintenance contracts.
Yeah.
Those are very expensive.
And also, that garage you spoke about just has a concrete floor
Yeah.
that's already like not very pretty. So
Yes.
like it doesn't matter if you smash all your weights into it thousands of times.
Exactly. Like the only consumable is like some rubber mats maybe. And I guess maybe some speakers when you're blasting out death metal like at a high volume. That those probably would break after a while. Uh,
After you smash weights into them a couple of times. Yeah.
yeah, maybe. But the thesis in my video is that there's like a continuum. I love a continuum. There's a continuum between gentle exercise that you must do more frequently, and strenuous exercise that you shouldn't do more frequently and indeed don't need to. And I discovered the difference between like weightlifting dumbbells, which I had to do every day, and powerlifting, which I just do 3 times a week for 15 minutes each at present, was wonderful. Like I didn't have to do enormous, I didn't have to take a lot of time out of my day, and the effort reward ratio was really working for me. It felt like a cheat code, and
Yeah.
because all of these exercises fix my RSI. Doing yoga every day fixes my RSI. Doing weights every day fixes my RSI. Like, but I don't want to do them every day. And so
Yeah.
finding something that I didn't need to do every day. Indeed, I'm sick this week. You could probably hear that I've got a cold. So I only went to the gym on Monday, and it is now Friday. So I've missed 2 sessions. My RSI has not returned. Like it takes about 2 weeks to return. It's because of the strenuous heavy weights. There must be something about the body's like uh, building itself up to meet that challenge that you overtrain for sitting at a desk. I think that's the way to think about it. Is I'm dramatically
Yeah. Oh,
overtrained.
that's very interesting. Yeah. But the amount of time you spend on exercise is about I don't actually spend this long, at least not recently, but 3 times 15 minutes to me is a relatively good week. And I feel like that's easily enough of running, right? Like, so what I try to do is because exercise is good for ADHD medication,
Yeah.
um, in an ideal day, and I tend to just do this on the days I don't have the kids, because I've got my kids half the time. So, um, on the days I don't have the kids, I will try to wake up, let's say 8, take my meds, throw on my gym stuff, go for a run. It's usually 15, 20 minutes. And then I come back, shower, and then I start work. And if I manage to do that 3 times a week, that's a really good week,
Lovely.
and it feels like it keeps me pretty fit. And it's like, it's yeah, it's the right amount.
That's fantastic. Yeah. As you know, running would not help my RSI in my wrists, but
No, right.
I see what you mean. Like running's a great. Casey talks a lot about running in her book. Like as a woman, she's told like women are told to like exercise a lot, keep the calories low, that sort of thing. So she contrasts
Mm,
running, uh, which is like you can see that she's been maligned by running, and running has been a negative thing in her life. But it isn't. It is not.
right.
Running or some sort of cardio should be part of. Like your heart is pretty good. Like my muscles are all very good in my arms, but like the heart is kind of a prerequisite there.
Yeah, I guess that's the theory I'm working on. I mean, I haven't read the books you've read, and I haven't focused on the academic background of much of the exercise. The main thing that I've heard repeated over and over again, to the extent that I believe it, without necessarily having done
Hmm.
um, my own study,
Cool.
is that basically the first most important thing for your health is that you raise your heart rate a bunch of times,
Yeah.
right? And that leads to a healthy heart, and it leads to, and so basically I suppose that's what I'm trying to achieve. But then, as you say, I am not struggling with RSI, so the specific things you need for that, and I can totally see that running is not necessarily helpful for that. I mean, I definitely do also. I have dumbbells. Like I have back problems sometimes. Like my lower back can hurt quite easily.
Right.
I don't think running helps my lower back. In general, I suppose I kind of agree with you. Like running is for fitness, heart strength. Um, it doesn't really help your joints, any of your joints at all, right? Like, you know,
Yeah.
um,
Ankles, I suppose, but maybe like legs a bit.
I don't know. I think those things can get destroyed by running.
Oh, right.
Actually,
Yes, of course.
it's like a lot of impact, over and over again, like small impacts,
Hence the
and that can be
elliptical
quite
machine.
bad for you.
Right.
Yeah,
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 I was astonished. Like once you start to like start lifting weights that are similar to your body weight, uh, like your heart rate goes through the roof. Like your body goes into like this primal, like I am lifting a fallen comrade off the battlefield mode. I'm just going to lift this car. Like, it's such a heavy weight. For me, it was about 80 kilos that this started. Like, my heart rate would go up to running levels as I was under the bar, pushing this insanely
Yeah.
heavy weight. Like, it was so weird. My feet feeling like I'd suddenly doubled in weight. I was like, oh, this is like, my feet don't usually feel like this. Like, pressing into the floor like some kind of Hulk monster.
Yeah.
So very, certainly, I it's obviously been transformative for me for my back and for my arms, but I think probably other options are available. But you just have to do them a bit more. I'm a huge fan of yoga. And, if you have a body and a floor, you can do yoga, which is always lovely. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in October of last year, October 2025, I was a guest on the WB40 podcast hosted by my friend Lisa and her friend Matt. And we talked about quite a lot of like productivity, writing, quite a lot of stuff that we've covered here on this on this podcast. But there was a question that we didn't get a chance to properly answer, and I love it, and I want to talk to you about it, Robin.
Cool.
And that question is, what are your tools for writing?
Yeah.
I'll start because I've thought about this question a lot. And for me, the tools aren't like physical, like a laptop or a keyboard, even though I've got all these fancy keyboards and stuff. My tools are all mental. Like, my morning writing habit is to sit down with a cup of ginger tea with the lights at a certain level and I've got a coffee table in front of a small screen that I sit on the floor. And that routine, I think, is the most important tool I have for writing. The rest is just typing.
So where did this question come from? Because as soon as you asked it, I felt curious about what you meant by tools, and I don't know why if you don't mean physical tools, why are we calling them that? Why aren't we saying what are your
habits, maybe.
Supportive habits, right? Exactly, or something like that.
So on the show on WB40, I think that was very much the expectation when either Lisa or Matt asked me the question, what are my tools? But in that moment, I realized that my tools, the most important tools for me, weren't the digital tools, though you better believe me and my 80 Obsidian plugins are working hard on that. But it was more interesting and more like fundamental. These real world physical tools or states of mind these states of mind tools were more important for me. So although Lisa talked about her own writing tools, digital tools, and Matt talked about his, I talked about these mental tools, which I think are more interesting. I wonder.
They're like like patterns for, because I think that's absolutely what I need. Like, I don't think I need tools. There are some tools that help, but they're downstream, right? Like, it'd be quite helpful. I mean, I think on a previous episode, I spoke about how important it was, like how much of a boon it is for Obsidian, for example, that it has a good mobile app.
Yes.
And then the extent to which the Digital Garden plugin, is that what it's called?
Yes.
Digital Garden?
Yes.
If that helps Obsidian convert directly onto publishing on my website, then that is potentially also a really important tool, because I want to be able to write where I have the inspiration. And that's so it's like you understand the attitude that you have to writing, the supportive attitude that you need to have to writing, and then you work out what tool enables it. But the tool is very much downstream of that super essential higher level exercise of figuring out what what attitudes you need to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. You can buy yourself a MacBook Pro M4, buy Scrivener, you can buy publishing tools, you can like spend thousands and thousands of pounds on a physical tool. And if you never sit down to write in the morning because you haven't sorted that out, it will be entirely wasted because it's, as you say, downstream of the habits and the mental tools.
Yes. And I have not sorted that out.
Well, it's the hardest thing, the absolute hardest thing. Every day, who said this? Neil Gaiman, I think. Writing is simply a matter of putting one word in front of another. It's that easy and it's that hard. I think about this every day because I sit in front of my 400 words for Lost Terminal that I must do every morning. I have other word counts for other projects, but that's the first one I do. It's the earliest one. I get up at 6 and do that. And it's so hard to start. I think it was Hemingway who said that all he had to do was write one true sentence to break the ice. Or just write one true sentence, one, even if it's fiction, it's a true sentence about the fiction that you're writing. And then he was off.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you could call it like one impactful or something like that. Sentence.
Sure.
I mean, I know what you mean. I think
he called
true
it.
Is a very
he called it true. I'm going to call it true.
Oh no, I know. I'm just I understand the feeling, and I completely know what he means. I think this is the difference. So you know how I was saying that like I've never had the habit, like when we're talking about ergonomic tools, and the way that I'm like always on the move. I mean, I haven't got RSI.
Yeah.
The flip side of that is that I don't sit and actually do significant projects, right? And so that's what I struggle with. And what I've always wanted really was I suppose to have the space somehow in my life for interesting writing that people would be interested in being emergent, as in I go through my life solving other problems, thinking about other things, having conversations with people, whatever, and a thing occurs to me, oh, right, well, actually, this is a really important point to make. I immediately extract that, get it down, send it out. And it's an emergent property of the fact that I've arrived at that place in that moment and I've noticed that. And then I've sort of like, and there are people who write in that way. I mean, there are people who publish multiple times a day because they've had inspired moments, and these are just like 2 or 3 paragraph updates or whatever, and they've somehow got a process that allows them to do it very quickly,
right?
And I don't, I've never really managed to do that, well, except that the posts I have published are kind of sort of that character, in that I have found a moment where I've managed to start, but they've clearly been so infrequent. But that's kind of the way that I'd like to write. Like I don't feel like I want to sit down at 8 in the morning religiously, do an hour of writing, because that to me feels already artificial. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I disagree, but I understand why you think so.
Yeah.
There is I forget who said this. When inspiration strikes, it better find me working. I need to find all of these, track down who said all of these.
That is a good quote.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's how I feel about this hour that I've blocked off in the morning. Is I can do anything I like as long as it's writing, and I don't allow myself to do other things. And this is very constraining and very painful, and my ADHD hates it, and the instant gratification monkey that lives in my brain doesn't like it either. But I'm a better person for putting in this effort over 6 years now. I started this habit when I started Lost Terminal, which I had to write before my day job, so I had to get up an hour early, put in the work, and then go to work. at my day job, and I had no other option. In the evening, I was very tired and didn't want to do anything other than maybe play games or talk to my friends. And so this was the only time I discovered I could do it. And so it's extremely precious. And now I'm extremely fortunate that I don't have a day job and I can spend all of my time writing. But it's a challenge every single day. It's miserable. I don't think writer's block exists. It's a manifestation of the privilege of a writer, in that you've got time and space to quietly think about this thing, and you can't think of the words or think of the scenes or get the facts straight, and you can't start. I mean, that to be in that position is quite privileged. Like if you were writing for a newspaper, the editor would be screaming at you. And you wouldn't get writer's block. You would just write badly, or learn to write under that pressure. Uh, I also think writer's block sometimes is caused by reader's block, which is where you've written too much, and it's time to recharge by reading. I don't know if that's necessarily particularly relevant. Let me go back to the previous topic. Did you say you get up at 8 in the morning, Robin, and go for a run?
Sometimes. When I have the kids, I've just recently developed a habit. I'm getting better at waking up at 7.
Right.
And then when I'm without the kids, I take the opportunity to try to lie in. But I'm probably up by 8. Yeah.
That was me before I was prescribed my ADHD meds. And then as an experiment, I thought, well, I've got these strong stimulants that will wake me up and keep me awake. So I don't necessarily think this would work for you, but I say it just for interest. I set my alarm. I've always been a late sleeper on your schedule. I think like getting up at 8 would be a remarkable achievement for me. And I would stay up late. And I decided to try setting an alarm for 6 in the morning and having some water and my meds on my nightstand, taking them every day at 6, and then just go back to bed, close my eyes, and just doze for a little bit. But I've just taken strong stimulants. Within 10, 15, 20 minutes, those would be working and I would be unable to sleep. So I would have this chemical reinforcement that it is time to get up. Within like a week or two of doing that, I fully reset my sleeping schedule. And now I'm a morning person. I don't think I'm naturally a morning person, but I decided to try it because I wanted to put.
Well, I've done a version of the same thing.
You have?
I mean, it's less extreme, but I wake up earlier than I did. I enjoy the time that I get in the morning before starting work. I don't know that I'm going to be waking up at 6. I think to do that, I would need to. It means you've got to go to bed really early. So I'd need that to fit into my life. Like I'd need to. It's not just me that needs me to go to bed late. There are other things in my life that
Right.
it would be difficult to have a really early bedtime.
You're right. The reason I wanted to do this is to synchronize with Lucy's schedule, because she is early to bed, early to rise, and I've never been that. And it was annoying because I was like not seeing her for large chunks of the evening and morning because we wouldn't overlap. So
Yeah,
yes, you're right.
exactly.
That's true. You should do the schedule that like fits with your life. That's very reasonable.
Yeah, but nonetheless, I mean, I think the waking up early. It's just that I was wondering whether I think basically I feel the way that my writing, like I think because I started to do the digital gardening thing, and it is really nice. I need to work out the tech a little bit because I want to have it published from my phone. I don't know the extent to which that's possible.
Yeah, easy.
Even on my laptop, it's like it's still a little too manual, the publishing for me. So I need to tweak it and figure out how to make it less so. But anyway, it's in theory is like I just I have an area of my Obsidian Vault, which I know is public, and I just go and tweak it, add a bit here, add a bit there. And to me, that's very similar to kind of journaling, basically. And that's kind of what I want to start to think of it more like. I want to think of it more like journaling. And and I think journaling for me is most likely to be an evening activity rather than a morning activity.
Cool.
But I haven't managed to build any kind of routine that actually successfully does it, so I can't say yet.
Right. Yeah. I think that it doesn't matter when that happens. For me, it's in the morning. For you, it could be in the evening. You just need a little slice. I forget again who said this, but if you were to like look at a writer, like observe them for their whole day, and look at a regular person who is not a writer, just with like a day job or whatever, their days might look almost identical. The writer wakes up, has breakfast. The writer might have a day job, might work at a cafe, might work at an office, whatever, to support their writing because capitalism is terrible. And they go to see friends in the evening, and they go out on the town, and they might go visiting places at the weekend. But the writer, every day, for a set period of time, maybe half an hour, maybe an hour, sits down and writes. That's the only difference. I forget who said this, but like it's marvelous. Like you just have to find that little slice, and boom, you're a writer. Like George R. R. Martin doesn't write all day every day. Nobody can. You'd get RSI. Like he'd like has food, has drinks,
Yeah.
chats with his friends. Like he has a life.
I mean, the worst example in the world, because he's like famously the slowest writer ever.
Yes, that's true.
By the way, I discovered in a previous conversation along similar lines, I was talking about how amazingly prolific Cory Doctorow is. In a recent podcast, possibly this week, he explained why that is, which is because he's got chronic pain syndrome. Like he's got, and being entirely absorbed in a task is a thing that takes his mind off the pain. So the reason why he's so productive, and he says this very explicitly, is because it's the thing that he's found that helps him escape from the pain.
Oh, that's so sad. I did know he had chronic pain. It's back pain, isn't it? Years ago he blogged about the topic and said that daily swimming for 1 hour is the only habit that helps him manage it. And that's a hell of a thing.
I suppose he should listen to your powerlifting video in case it's any use.
I bet he's thought of it.
I bet he has.
Like you try everything, right? If you had chronic pain, you try damn anything.
Yeah, true. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. If I just unlocked the habit, I mean, I've unlocked plenty of habits recently. Like I go running relatively regularly. That was something that I never thought I'd really be able to manage to do. I'm starting to get actually be quite organized with getting the kids to school on time. There's a lot of general improvement and organization in my life. And I think as soon as I built in even, let's say, 20 minutes of writing as a daily schedule, suddenly that would make, I'd suddenly be publishing a lot, and that would make a big difference.
You'd be a writer.
And that could be fun.
Yeah, it'd be lovely. 20 minutes a day, that's a writer for sure. Some days that's all I can manage, and some days I can't do it at all, and I write 0 words, and then the hour is up, and I found that if I keep trying, it never works. Like I get more and more frustrated, more and more tired.
Yeah,
and I just say, well, look, if I've not done it by 10, we just got to give up. Like it's a hard limit, and I go to the gym. Like I have that as like a circuit breaker.
Yeah.
And then I get back on track because I went to the gym, and I wanted to go to the gym. That was in my schedule, and I'm now back on track. And maybe the next slot of writing, maybe it's a no boilerplate script or whatever, I can then start that on time rather than pushing the entire schedule.
Well, this is the thing that unlocked the running for me, which was like the reason why I never managed to build a regular exercise routine is because to be able to do it, it was always a target, and it was a target that carried this like judgment within it, right? It was like, you have to be able to do, and everyone always recommends that you set yourself these targets so that you feel like a drive, you feel pushed, you feel like you've got to meet them, etc.
Yeah.
And I've never responded well to that sort of like being measured, I suppose, being like, having to prove yourself against the measure or whatever. Like, I think I almost react against that.
Mm.
Um, and so that always stopped me. Like, I'd always like, it's like I'd fail before I'd even started in my mind, right? Because I'd be like, oh, I'm never going to meet the whatever. The expectation. Oh, there's no point trying. And then I think it was probably through listening to videos about atomic habits or something like that. But I just started to be like, well, if you think about it as building, then anytime I step outside the house with running shoes on is an improvement and something I should be proud of.
Yeah,
And at that point, even if I go step 1 meter away from my front door and back into the house, that's improvement and something to be proud of.
that's right.
If I just go for a walk to the end of the road and back, that's better than having stepped outside my house. So I now had no pressure to run. Like, I used to feel like if I went for a run and I walked at any point of it, then actually I'd kind of failed, right?
Right.
But if you can flip that round and be like, I actually managed to jog for like 100 meters, right?
Mm.
And so then the only challenge is getting your running shoes on and having allocated like 10 minutes, right?
Yes.
As soon as you've done that, you're making improvement.
In Casey's book, she describes a person or a friend or someone she talked to who would book the taxi to the gym the night before, because
Yeah.
by the time she was feeling lazy in the morning and was like, oh, I'm gonna skip, the taxi's booked. Like, you can't cancel it. Like, it's too late. By the time she woke up, she was like, oh, I don't feel it, but the taxi's coming. And so actually for her, you said, is if you get the shoes on, you're off. For her, it was if she gets in the taxi, she's off.
Yeah. Well, or you book it beforehand. I mean, that contract setting, I use meetings. To be honest, I abuse other people's time to set contracts for myself by booking meetings with them. And that's how I get work done.
So you're the problem, right?
Yeah.
I see. It's called a Decian Pact. I'm sure you know that, but I want to make sure our listeners know the coolest name in the world. Odysseus wanted to hear the beautiful siren song, but without being lured to his death by drowning. So he asked his crew to tie him to the mast while they all had wax in their ears. He wanted to ensure against future bad behavior he knew he would make by making a framework today to stop that, an Odyssean Pact. I think all of my habits are Odyssean Pacts.
Yeah.
I can't trust myself.
Yeah. And once you realize that, because I think that a lot of the philosophy of self-improvement is based on this idea that we're some kind of perfect thing.
Mm.
And I feel like what you're talking about there almost makes the complete opposite assumption, which is that you are massively flawed in many ways.
Thank you.
And you now have a design exercise of working out how to deal with this incredibly flawed human being, right?
Right, exactly. That's why I love using Obsidian to design these tools, because like a to-do list that someone else has made is never going to work for me, because I have extremely custom requirements. For example, the one that works, the one that is I've learned that I have to just accept is that I have, like many people with ADHD and autism, I have some amount of oppositional defiance. And what would happen is I would set a load of to-dos, plan out the whole week, and then by the second day, I'd wake up and look at these and go, I'm not doing any of these. This is stupid. What did that guy think he was? Who the hell does he think he is? He's dead. I'm alive. I get to choose what I'm doing, and I'm going to play Skyrim for 5 hours or whatever. So I realized that this behavior was just obviously self-sabotaging. So I designed a system, I based on getting things done, GTD, that just shows me the next actions in the projects that I need to be doing. And I look at those in the morning and I go, which of these do I vibe with? And it didn't matter which of them I chose to do that day. It's all gravy. It's all good. It's all progress. Probably if there were really, really urgent things, like an episode due tomorrow, I would feel that in that moment, choose to make choose to assign that task to today, and then the rest of the day I just go through that short list of tasks that I've decided to do. Sometimes they're even written on paper. Like I just look at the next actions list and I go, okay, well I'll write down 3 of them, whatever, and then that paper follows me around
That's
the
quite
house or
interesting.
wherever I'm going to go,
Yeah, I haven't.
and that
Um,
it's worked so well.
yeah, maybe that would work for me. Like these are the projects, and this is the next action in each of them. There's a menu of stuff for my monkey
Oh,
brain to decide to choose from. I like that.
right. Yes. Okay. Well, this is exciting. I described this method in my Obsidian for Learning video,
Right.
or I hinted at it, and I'm currently writing the follow up to that video, which explains all of it.
Sure. How do you do it though?
the the way I've modeled this in Obsidian is that projects are notes that are tagged projects, and in those notes they've got a load of
Yeah.
checklists, markdown checklists, and those are all the actions, and they're in chronological order. You do A, then B, then C. So the first one is
Yeah.
definitionally the next action.
Mhm.
Then imagine you have 10 of these projects. It's pretty reasonable. Most people have 10 things that they want to do. You make a very simple query that shows you just the name of the project and
Yeah.
then the first unchecked checkbox in each project. And there you have it. That is your morning, or that is my morning next action list. And I
Yeah.
look through and go, which of these am I going to do today? My little menu. And I run my fingers down it and go, oh, this looks tasty. I'm going to do that. Or wow, this is
Yeah.
overdue. I'm a terrible person. I'd better do this today. And then I'm off.
I mean, you're right that the basic logic of that is quite straightforward. I thinking about my lists. Um, I don't know how. I mean, yes, the question is, do I have projects that I can define that clearly, and would I do the work to define them? But I'll definitely give it a go. I mean, I sort of do a version, or I tried previously doing a version of that same sort of thing because I had my daily note had like top priorities in this area, top priorities in that area, top priorities at
Yeah.
work, which is a bit similar. And then I'd often, as you can imagine, decide that I was going to tackle my personal priorities, even though I was supposed to be working, or vice versa. Um, which is the version of the oppositional defiance you're talking about, I think.
Yes. Tim Urban calls that the dark playground.
Yeah, but I just don't know whether the extent to which I could define the projects. I mean, I could try. I mean, how many projects have I got that are like multi-action, that are more than just one thing? Yeah, interesting. Anyway, cool. I don't know to the extent to which we've explained the tools for writing. Really,
Yeah, that's a very good point. So to circle back to the top, which is like mental tools. For me, I really
yeah,
like
the patterns
exactly
or
patterns and
self
habits.
habits.
So
Yeah,
CGP Gray's. So my hero, CGP Grey, made a video a while ago called Spaceship You, and it was based on a previous video of his called How to Maximize Misery, which of course was an anti-pattern. Here are the things not to do. Yeah, and in Spaceship U, he described separating out all of the different modes of your life. Like you've got an area for like watching videos or playing games, and that is not the same area as work happens or sleep happens. And he pointed out that for those, such as students or people living at home with their parents, sometimes all you've got is one room. You don't have multiple rooms, and it could be very small. The way to make that work
yeah,
is through color theory and sensory grounding. For
yeah,
example, you could change your background wallpaper on your computer or device and always use the same wallpaper when you're writing. Then your brain is like, oh, I'm here. This is where I am. Great. Maybe you always listen to the same playlist. Like I have a writing playlist that I've used for many, many years. And I just, it's doesn't have any lyrics. It's synthwave, like it's upbeat, and that gets me into the zone for writing science fiction. I have a separate playlist for writing historical fiction and for writing no boilerplate. And I always use these playlists as tools to get me into the vibe. And as I said, I've got ginger tea that I drink in the morning, which like smell is such a grounding sense, isn't it? And so that really puts me, that gives me the best chance of getting into the zone and focusing.
I don't know whether those. I feel like I've tried to do those sorts of things before, and I don't. I don't think they work for me. I think for me, it's more like is jumping myself onto the right track, but that's a decision. So if I can get myself to make the decision, then I don't need environmental cues to keep me there. I just need to make myself actually decide to sit down and do that.
Right. And how successful has that been?
Does that make
How
sense?
successful has that been for you?
Well, no, but what I mean is, I don't think that the changing of the playlist, the changing of the colors, these things, I think that I deliberately don't let those things impact my direction that I'm in.
Ah,
So I don't have another solution per se, except that I think that I'm getting better at. It's like, for some reason, I'm scared of, on some level, some psychological level, deciding and committing to doing the thing that I know I should be doing or whatever. Because I'm scared of failure, because I'm scared of letting someone down, maybe something like that.
right.
And the thing that's worked for me is more like, through repetition and slowly building it up, lowering the fear. It's like to do it, I have to scale a wall, and every time I scale the wall, I knock a bit off the top, and it gets a bit shorter.
Yeah.
Easier to scale. This isn't a perfect metaphor, but like,
I think.
But so anything I can do to make myself cross that boundary more times, then makes it much, much easier. And then I get to have more control over my day. And I'm like, oh, I mean, this is how it kind of is for running, because I'm like, oh, I have an opportunity to go running now, and I feel excited about it. I feel a bit like that's more how I would get into writing, and it is how I get into doing other useful stuff. It's like it's like, instead of it being a threat in some way, I gradually evolve towards seeing it as more of an opportunity somehow.
Yeah. Do you think the habits would evolve as well? They they might start off being something that was not working or frustrating even, but maybe they might evolve into something that was working a little better for you.
Which habits?
Like the the using the sensory stuff that I talked about, the stuff you said hasn't worked for you in the past. Maybe they might over time. Maybe they might help and improve.
Well, I think it's just. I mean, to me, I think that's not going. I don't think that works any better than the basic routine. Like as in, like, if I wake up, I take my meds, I go for a run, I shower, I go and get breakfast, and then I sit down at my desk, and then I start writing, for example.
Yeah.
Right. The sequence is the sequence and but even on the level of, like, if after I'd done that morning routine, I then was deciding, oh, what am I going to do now? Oh, I'm going to choose between, am I going to work on Decapsulate? Am I going to work on, this work thing? Am I going to reply to this person? It's like a neural pathway, right? Like, if I'd worn each of those neural pathways a bit more, if I built them up a bit more and they were stronger, then it's then easy for me to make the choice to do the thing that I actually want to do intentionally.
It's
And and in all of that space, because I have tried, sort of like environmental cues, before, and I don't think they're the thing for me, but I can give it a go.
I mean, at the very least, it's quite nice to have a cup of tea or a special drink.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Like you could have, because then you're sort of making the choice earlier with a a much less impactful action, right? Like rather than sitting down and actually starting the thing, it's like, all right, which of the drinks am I going to choose? And then you choose the drink that you that that corresponds to the thing that I want to do. And it's like maybe that's a bit easier then to make that choice. And then I'm already on the track. So then I carry on.
Yeah, I think this is the thesis in Triggers, the book Triggers by Marshall Goldsmith, is like you chain habits together, and like you hook them
Right.
onto each other, and there's no limit perhaps on how many you can hook on, but the first anchor has to be extremely strong. Maybe for you that might be running or getting up. Like certainly for me, it's the morning stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've definitely got a lot better at this kind of thing. And I think now it's partly just a decision to focus on it. Like I think I could create the space to design in, I'm gonna write half an hour every evening or whatever. And if I just committed to actually trying to build that, I think I'd be able to build it now. Because I think I've done it with enough things. But it just hasn't been my focus for a little bit because I've got other things. But yeah, I mean I'll try and do that and I'll let you know how it goes next time.
Marvelous.
I think to a lot of people this stuff sounds like very untethered, sort
Right.
of. It's like they're all little tips that, like, why do I care? Like, I should just, they're not the big impactful thing that's like a transformative new technology or I don't know what. But actually, like, building a massive arsenal of all these tiny little techniques and then figuring out which ones work for you, I think is actually um, really, really important and eventually very impactful.
Absolutely.
I think you've shown.
Yeah. The sum of the parts. Yeah. The small snowball gets bigger and bigger, faster and faster.
Yeah. Yeah. What was that snowball? Sorry, this is interesting to me. The snowball versus oh yes, eat the frog.
Yes, right? I used to think I was an eat the frog sort of guy, where the hardest, most daunting task I've got to get it over with first, and then I can relax and blast through the others. But I've actually since realized that I also really like. It's not that I like doing lots of little tasks and working my way up to the large ones. It's that if unchecked, the little ones will stop me doing the large ones. Like I'll drown in the debt of all the tiny little tasks that are hanging around my neck.
For me, it's not only that; it's also that because I like the instinct to eat the frog, then makes you feel like eating the frog has to be your next task. But then you don't do it because you're not ready for it yet, right? Like you're scared of it, so you divert from it. But then you can't intentionally do anything else because you know that the frog is the next thing you've got to eat. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And so you then kind of get stuck there. And in fact, in many cases, because this was kind of unlocked for me, like when I was going through divorce, and I mean I'm not divorced yet, but the early stages of it, and I went and had a life coaching like retreat weekend thing,
Oh.
and that experience of life coach is that in a lot of cases, if I just zoom out and I look at the fact that there's a thing that I see as in my way, which I'm really, really struggling to get done, in almost every case, I have to just find out how to not do it. Do you know what I mean? I can't force myself to do it. If I really hate it, like the fact that I have like refused to do that thing for so long means that I just hate it and I just don't want to do it. And like there's almost certainly another path. And there basically always kind of has been. And if I just like think a little creatively about how I could just not do the thing that I clearly just hate the idea of, then then I can kind of unlock it. And that's where I think the snowball thing fits in, because the building to a huge snowball thing has implicit within it that the thing you're building over and over time and layering on top of is fundamentally something you clearly just want to do. Because you obviously wouldn't put yourself through the slog of slowly wrapping a ball in snow over a long period of time for something that you fundamentally hated, if you know what I mean. So it already switches you into the mindset of,
Right.
I'm going to actually just follow the stuff that is where my heart is, kind of. And the Eat the Frog one, I feel like, is the opposite of that. It's like, focus on the thing you hate, get it done. And actually, a lot of the time, you're just stuck because you hate it.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll desperately try to do anything other than the thing you hate. Yeah, that's true. Okay. So the email cartel is what I've got written here.
Yes. Right. Well, I've been getting so many spam calls recently.
Oh, yeah.
That I eventually turned on the feature on my phone to block spam calls, which I hadn't done up to then because I felt like I didn't trust their guesswork, and it seems like being able to get through to me in a phone call is important enough that I wouldn't want to block people. And there's definitely been in the last like 2 months at least one call that actually mattered that was marked as spam by my phone.
No.
But the overwhelm of the number of spam calls I've been getting, that's just meant that I've got no choice now. And then you commented in response to that. Can you remember what you said?
Oh, exactly. Go on.
Right.
I'm sure you remember better than I.
Well, I can't remember exactly what you said, but you said something like, "Are they going to make a monopoly out of the phone system now?" or something like that.
Oh, right. Yes, because if Google decides who is and isn't a spam caller, then that's an extremely powerful position to be in for a private company.
Right. Precisely. Yes. And the direct analogy for that, obviously, is email.
Yeah. So it is not possible in our current internet to host your own email server and be your own email provider. It is perhaps technically possible, but it is almost, the complexity to do this is now out of the reach of almost everybody because of the anti-spam measures taken by the by the cartel. That's what we're calling them. By the cartel of Google, Microsoft, and Apple, and all the big email providers. I bet AOL is there as well. And they have an agreement between them about what correctly formatted and signed and authorized messages are. And if they come from one of each other, they're sort of automatically trusted, or they're already in the allow list. And if you, a third party, are setting up your own service, it is so difficult to get on the good list, get on the list to get into the cool club. And also, and I can't stress this enough, they shouldn't be the ones to have this list. If I'm a competitor to Google, Google just might not put me on that list in a very timely manner. Or they might keep forgetting, or it might break now and then, or they might just drop me off that anti-spam list right when I'm launching a new product, or anything like that. And so this is where we are now.
Are you saying that Google have done those things, or are you just pointing out that they could?
I'm just pointing out that they could. The principle of the matter is that they shouldn't be the ones to decide who can send or receive email. And so them being in the same position with spam phone calling just gave me instant PTSD. And I was like, oh no, another problem.
Well, and the specific example for this, right, is that you, some couple of years ago or so, switched, maybe a bit longer than that, switched over to using Hey.com as your email provider. So Hey.com was at the time a new email service from, are they called Basecamp or 37 Signals at this point? I can't remember.
37 Signals, yeah.
So they switched to being called Basecamp and then they went back.
I think so. I think that's the deal. But they're the company that makes Basecamp, the company that used to make High Rise, Campfire, but Basecamp is their huge product.
Yeah. But at some point they changed their name to Basecamp, and I found that a weird decision because Basecamp seemed like a much more of a stuffy corporate name than anyway.
Yeah,
um
yeah.
but anyway, they came up with hey.com, and it's an email service that you have to pay for, right? And that has a lot of new and radical ways of thinking about email potentially that might be helpful, and I think you do find it
I
helpful.
I describe it as email for autists or people with ADHD and autism. Like they don't market it as such, but I look at all of their crazy weird features and I'm like, oh, you put this in for me. Thank
Yeah,
you. Here is my $60 a year. Thank you
sure.
so much. But
Well,
I keep getting my emails bounced from like when I email people who are on a Gmail account, for example.
oh, you do? Oh, right. Because I knew
To
you'd
this
said that
day,
you told me that they published a lot of like posts or something about the struggles they'd gone through with trying to get around, get their email, their users to be seen as legitimate. But I didn't realize that
mm,
it was a continuing problem. I thought they'd sort of they'd solved it, but it just been like a huge amount of work.
they have solved it in all except for attachments. I can't send attachments, uh, certain attachments like zip files. I can't send zip files to a Gmail account. It just will never arrive, and it would get bounced back as being blocked for anti-spam. And although, sure, zip files are a bit of a weird thing, and like they often contain viruses and stuff, but a Gmail account can email another Gmail account, and a Hotmail account can email another Hotmail account. Can email a Gmail account a zip file. Like it's not a weird feature, but it's an example of where they've not quite been able to get into the cool kids club. They're sitting in second class. They're in the cheap seats, not up at the front.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like this is all an analogy for um what's happening with many areas of our public infrastructure, because this is why you need plurality and regulation, um potentially regulation, because
Mm.
um the world we live in now, it's like the only solution we have available to us is to allow two or three powerful private companies to design our public infrastructure. And when they do that, it's not even, we don't have to ascribe malintent to them. It's just an emergent from that system that they will then um, design it in a way that is somewhat proprietary, that rests on particular understandings between them. They're not going to fully, thoroughly document everything they've done. They're not going to like go to the effort to make a really rigorous public standard and adhere to it perfectly, um,
Oh
because
yeah,
they
you
just
don't
simply don't
need
have to.
you don't need any collusion when interests align.
Yeah, and that's where we are in more and more places in
Yeah.
the world, and it makes it so that no one can meaningfully compete, and you can't, and that then creates a sort of a monopoly, a um, oligopoly, and
Mm.
that, in the same way as a monopoly, that drives down quality for everybody. The thing that I was relating this to was the fact that, like, the internet is now significantly less reliable than it was. Cloudflare
Right.
are like a massive um, structural part of the internet, and they, around the period of like December and like November, December, had something like 3 or 4 service-wide outages, um,
Mm.
something like that,
Yeah, I
which which is
remember
which is
that.
absolutely nuts for such a critical piece of our global communications framework.
Yep. And of course, GitHub are terrible. I saw a post yesterday. Someone said that up so we're the 13th of February when we're recording this. up to today, or perhaps yesterday, GitHub has not been able to have 3 nines of availability this year. That's 99.9% uptime. They have not reached this impossible height. Oh, I remember. It's the register. I read it in the marvelous register.co.uk. Yeah, they were unable to get 3 nines, which is like bare minimum.
Yeah. I mean, you would never, when, you know, speaking from within a company where they make these sorts of purchasing decisions, if we were looking at a service and we were looking at, taking on a service as a significant piece that our business relied on, and then they're advertising only 3 nines of uptime, we're not, I mean, that's not going to fly. We need at least, 5, basically.
Yeah, that's 4 days of downtime. Like continuous days. Like it's crazy to not be able to do that. Like the industry standard for like bare minimums is 5 nines, at least that's what I was taught, and that is like a couple of hours per year you're allowed, and even
Yeah.
that is considered like minimum. Like you should have just a few minutes of downtime, or like it should self heal after milliseconds. That like we can do this, or maybe we can't. GitHub
Yeah.
is anything to go by.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what the solution is to this problem exactly, because we do have, obviously, like, the reason why I have opted to say yes phone, yes Google controlled phone, please block my spam calls, is because I'm getting too many of them, and that's a problem that needs a solution. Um, I mean, I suppose I feel like it's quite clear that the mechanisms behind that should be much more publicly visible and publicly debated, right? So, like,
Yeah, there should.
yeah, go on.
Like the list should be controlled by the government. Like it should be in. There should be a database that the government runs that has the list. Then any operator can use that list to check for bad, known bad phone numbers. Like you can do like a half thing, like a partial private, partial public, but like the core data, like the main levers, should be in the hands of the people in the government.
Well, you see, I don't see the government. I mean, we had this debate a little bit before. I don't necessarily see the government as a more benign. I mean, it maybe is more benign, but it's not a benign institution. Both a monopoly corporation and a government are both massive power centers, and so the the problem comes from, like, I mean, you say the government puts it in the hands of the people. I don't really agree, because I think the government being one body is significantly far from the people, even if in theory it's controlled by democratically elected leaders.
I know what you're saying. Yeah,
But
like it is
so
distantly remote.
the trouble with it is that it's too, like, there should be many, many layers to it, where uh, we can all see the list, we can all challenge the list, we are all, as far as possible, or at least a significant number of us, involved in tweaking the algorithm that comes up with the list. We can make submissions to challenge particular things. We can also, like, locally filter the list. These would be the things that would empower people, I feel, and that's what you'd want in this. And I think that's sort of what the older internet kind of achieved. I mean, like you say, um it's a bit of a convenience versus configuration trade-off, isn't it? Like, in the old days, anyone could set up their own mail server. They could become their
Hmm.
own email provider. And that's because, fundamentally, all you're doing is sending a text over TCP with a bit of a header, right? Just like you are with when you host a website or whatever. Um, and that's not complicated. And that just meant that people had more responsibility themselves for then figuring out what to do with the spam. And so then you individuals would then have to, and ideally, I suppose we would have built up more empowered networks where we helped each other to tackle the spam problem. But instead, everyone got a free Gmail account. Well, I guess first everyone got a free Hotmail account, and then they got a free Gmail account.
Yeah.
And then Google were like, "Oh, well, we'll just take that problem away for you." And we obviously never, we as a human race, never quite squared up to the Faustian bargain we were entering into at that point. I think.
Right. We gave up a little liberty for a little security.
Little convenience, I'd say, yes. But yeah,
Yes.
and that's because, well, I mean, it can't be separated from the fact that that's what the free market individualist Thatcher Reagan society pushes you towards. And if we were all used to exercising our community engagement muscles a lot more, like people were in, let's say, the 60s or the 70s, I think we would have built systems that contained more of our individual control within them, if that makes sense. So to me, that's the solution. It's like a general community engagement problem, right?
That sounds nice. I think that maybe we're at a point where we need to have a stronger, less like distributed and community oriented government function. Because of the threats of these large tech companies. I would not be confident that every individual, say, council could take on Google, but I would be more confident that if they all worked together, the UK government could, or maybe more than that.
So now we're very much in the realm of politics. And this is a political debate. And that is my world.
Oh no.
I think that if you look around a little bit to look at case studies, you would have less of a government versus corporations view of the world. I think where power gets centralized in government, broadly speaking, it works in the interests of capital. And that's very difficult to extract yourself from in any way. I don't think you can ever trust a significantly centralized power center in government to be in the interests of the people. I think the thing that makes it in the interest of the people is strengthening the direct democracy links between the people and the systems of running society. And that's why community engagement's the key.
Gotcha. Yeah, maybe a hybrid method, not a million miles away from perhaps something like Mastodon that's federated.
Right. Yeah.
Like where you retain a lot of control, but there are national or regional or granular lists that you can subscribe to with
Yeah.
sensible defaults.
Yeah. Well, I get a bit baffled when I feel like I have to sort of lay this out for people in the open source space, because I feel like this is the stuff we've been dealing with for decades, right? It's like we believe in we know it's complicated. We know there are lots of challenges along the way, but it's an incredibly lazy solution for somebody to say, well, let's just make the decision centrally. Like there's a reason why we still believe in open source, even though we know that like the Google can just make a decision for the whole of their user base. Because it's something that brings in the plurality of contributions from the entire community, and that's messy potentially, but it is the only way to actually have the voice of the public be honored in any way.
I agree. Yeah.
So I mean, I think that that's the solution to the email phone thing, but I don't know
That's
what you can do about it from the point we're at the moment. We'll have to wait and see.
have to wait and see. Wonder what the Graphene OS project does for this. I bet they've re-engineered a clever option.
Graphene OS.
Yes, it's the hardened, paranoid Android distribution that has like replicated quite a lot of Google's infrastructure, but in a user affirming way.
Right.
It's
Well, to me,
it's
the
very
way,
good.
they're usually behind the structure of the project, right? Like,
Mm,
if they were literally, like it says, it's developed as a non-profit open source project. So you've got non-profit in there. That's important, right?
yep.
Open source could mean various things, but you would assume that there's various community contribution layers underneath that. And that's what makes it more democratic. The thing about Google is that fundamentally, I don't even know who's the CEO of Google at this point, but is it still Sundar Pichai? I don't know.
I can't
Um,
remember.
but what I mean is, like, fundamentally that is a dictatorship from the CEO down, and if they say you're doing it this way, then you're doing it that way, right? Like that's the thing that makes it and that answers, that they're gonna centralize the interests of mostly like the shareholders, or the board of trustees that represent the shareholders or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
and hopefully in any kind of principled organization, like what it looks like, what Graphene OS is, it's not really in the tech that you'll see what I'm talking about per se, right? It's in the systems of collaboration that exist behind the whole project.
Gotcha.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Which
I
is
do.
what you have in every open source project, and then you have open source projects which are just, like Chromium, for example, which obviously start to exist as only a thing that serves a particular company, and then that company very quickly sort of shuts down. Like, yes, they're open source, yes, they might have, like, I don't know, like some ghost structures of what might be collaborative structures that might exist in a proper open source project, but they're not actually going to allow any meaningful decision that comes from the community through that. They're only going to let the decisions be ultimately in the direction of whatever favors Google, right?
Yeah.
And so what makes
Yeah.
something a truly open source project is that they do have those structures and they actually allow them to make decisions that are filtered up from the grassroots.
That's the dream. So, if you're listening to this on Patreon, thank you so much. There are some segments that we have to cut for time or cut for relevancy. We're going to start putting some of those extra long bonus segments at the end of the Patreon episodes. Hopefully, they'll be interesting. They might be a bit more rabbit holey, a bit more personal, but we'll see. We're making the first of those segments available for free in the main feed. Thank you so much for everyone for supporting us. So, on January the 14th, 2026, at 9 in the evening UTC, fully 60% of the world's Telnet traffic dropped off and has not returned. Did you know about this, Robin?
I don't think so.
It is astonishing. I will put the link in the show notes to the Grey Noise Lab post about this, but that's where I first learned about it. I probably saw it on Hacker News. What happened is that at this time, at the backbone level, like the intercontinental backbone level, port 23 was blocked, which dropped the open telnet sessions by about 60%, and they just have never come back. For some reason, which actually we I think we do know based on the evidence, at this point, the backbone service providers all organized exactly on the hour to block port 23 unilaterally. This was US, Ukraine, Canada, Poland, Egypt. Like not like filtering. Oh, and Zimbabwe. Not filtering, but just like zero. Like the port is no longer usable. Isn't that wild?
Yes. Why?
Here's what we think has happened. A week or so after this enormous change in the way the internet fundamentally works, a CVE was made public in the GNU Telnet D program server, and it is a colossal CVE. It's 11 years old, and it allowed you to log in as root with no password. Every Telnet server in the world is vulnerable to this. And it's especially insidious with Telnet because that shit's installed on firmware devices that will never see an update. And so it will never get patched. The vulnerability is the attacker sends -f space root as the username, and it bypasses authentication and logs you in as root. Trivial, right?
Yeah.
Horrifying. This has been in Telnet for 11 years, GNU Telnet. And so it's probably on your router and my router and everyone else's router and the JTAG stuff in firmware and chips, bare metal chips. So
what? So the block was in intercontinental, right, but therefore not within local, like national internet networks.
let me tell you. So I think it is also in a lot of ISPs as well.
Right.
The article has 4 examples of complete blanket dropping of port 23.
Right.
Vulture, Cox Communication, Charter and Spectrum, which I had heard of, and BT.
Yeah.
With British Telecom. I'm very, we know about that. So they also were involved in some way. Cloud providers aren't part of this. Cloud providers are largely unaffected. In fact, a lot of the botnets switched to cloud providers, and so their traffic actually went up. What happened is that the blocking happened before the CV was released publicly, but these providers will have been notified beforehand.
Yeah.
So they will have been a panicked meeting in some basement with no windows between some sysadmins, like, guys, this is terrible. We have to do something. And they say, well, what can we do? And they say, well, look, we're running the backbone. We could solve this worldwide catastrophe that is about to happen. And they did. These anonymous people, these tier 1 transit providers, just got together secretively and blocked Telnet because it was about to become a hellscape.
Yeah.
January the 14th, 9 o'clock UTC, Telnet backbone drop begins, and with a few hours, the rollout is complete. And then on the 20th, 6 days later,
Yeah.
the CV advisory was posted.
Yeah, I mean,
So there was 6-day
that is
gap.
wild, but I feel like that's only the
Isn't that
beginning of the
wild?
story to some extent. So I'm very interested in what might have been published since this article, because there's a number of questions that enter my mind. Firstly, with such a simple vulnerability, how um, how widespread might it have been being used up to now? And then also,
In the wild. Yeah.
how much is it still an immense vulnerability, despite the fact that you've dropped communication between those backbone points, right? Like,
Huge. I can go to your house, and if your router has a Telnet enabled by default, which they shouldn't have, I agree, but sometimes these devices do,
yeah,
then just you instantly can weaponize these against the user that bought them.
well, exactly. But then the point is, the interesting thing there, because you say like it shouldn't, but that's actually something we can know. Like, I'm sure that we can graph how many home routers have port 23 open, right? Like, and maybe it's 20%, maybe it's 0.5%, maybe it's 0.0001%. Like, I don't know, but the difference between those numbers is huge, right?
Yeah.
So I Yeah, I mean, that's very interesting. And then what's the loss? So like what was Telnet meaningfully being used for, which was suddenly disabled?
That is a great question. Like SSH should be the one you should be using because that uses real cryptography, whereas Telnet is just throw some bytes in the clear down the line. I think that Telnet that comes into its own when in low power devices where you don't want or can't run the complexities of public private key cryptography.
Yeah.
So like embedded devices, industrial sensors, industrial machines, stuff like that.
Yeah, so like how much did they break? Because like I can well imagine that there were a lot of things and potentially a lot of important, and maybe they already knew that it that there wasn't anything that, like, maybe they actually did their homework on this. Maybe they discovered the vulnerability 6 months ago. They spent, you know, months and months chasing down what the implications of turning off Turnet would be, and they decided it was worth it, and then they did it, right? But like after a very long investigation. I mean, that's fascinating to me. The thing that I know that I would use Telnet for occasionally was as a basic test of a TCP connection. Like that was kind of the most basic test of a successful TCP connection that I could find.
Just using the client, like poking a port with Telnet and
Yeah,
seeing the raw bytes. Yeah, exactly. Well, this is in
right,
the
exactly.
vulnerabilities in the
Which you
daemon.
now can't do anymore. But like, were people ever doing that in scripts, in like automated
Oh, well,
regular
hold up.
jobs, in like
To
inside?
be clear, this is GNU Telnet D, the daemon, the server. The client is unaffected. You can still use the a Telnet client to connect to port 80 on a web server and see some bytes come back. Like that.
Yeah, to port 80. Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Here's the wild thing. On December the 1st, there were an average worldwide daily sessions of like 1 million uh, daily sessions observed by greynoise.io. And then that dropped down to 322,000 by February the 2nd, a third of the
right.
baseline. Um,
Yeah,
I agree. By the way, this blog post, which I will link in the description, I'll send to you now, Robin. This was released.
I think I'm reading it.
Yeah, this was released 3 days ago. This is quite recent.
Yeah,
I'll
sure.
say that the thing that sticks in my mind is there are two things that stick out to me. One is we can no longer use Telnet over the internet, but local networks still be fine. And actually, probably local networks is where it was mostly used. So maybe that's not too bad. Like you would imagine that in order to like connect to this old creaky industrial machine, you probably boot up the Windows 98 supervisor machine, dust off the keyboard, and log in that way. That'll be unaffected because it's local.
Mm.
But the bigger question is these unnamed, unknowable backbone companies colluded together for good. No government told them to do this, or at least no one we know. They might have just acted on their own good nature to defend their own networks. And I'm very grateful they did. This was great. But for them to have so much power, these backbone tier one providers, is kind of scary.
Yeah, it's disturbing. Yeah, no, I agree.
Like, we don't know what happened. No one's saying anything.
And we have this problem in sort of in general, that like the security, like so often this is what happens with CVEs. There's it is best practice if you discover a significant security vulnerability that you're first supposed to reach out to the people who can fix it, right? And then they're supposed to have a very carefully planned publication strategy for that.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but that is therefore necessarily undemocratic in the public good, effectively. Like you're deliberately keeping it secret.
Mm.
Because that's what's deemed to be in the public
It
interest.
probably is.
And it's a very interesting sort of paradox. Yeah. But yes, I mean this at least now that it's public, you'd think that this should, like exactly what happened here, should be in the public record.
Terrifying and fascinating.
Yeah.